Good morning.
Mike, can I ask you a question? The attachments for Eric Beta's application to be on the anti-discrimination committee. I got the attachments last night from Commissioner Kennedy. I had emailed him. Eric Beta had first delivered them to Corey.
Yeah, it looked like he emailed or he took a picture of the back page and sent it to all the commissioners yesterday. I
Good.
believe.
Okay, so all commissioners have it now. Thank you.
Yep, they should.
Morning, everyone.
Morning. Michelle, Michelle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Is Darius on? I don't see his name on my screen.
Yes, he is. There he is.
Good
Yes.
morning, Darius.
Morning.
I was looking for you.
Hmm.
Okay, it looks like all the committee members are present. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Carrie Ann, are you all set to go? And Mike, are you ready? Okay, we'll call the meeting to order then. Michelle, is there any public here? Just out of curiosity, I'll still call for public comment.
There's no one had registered for public comment. I see a couple numbers that might be for our panelists. I'm not sure what numbers they are, but nobody
Okay.
registered for public comment.
Okay, so first up, we're looking for approval of the agenda. If you can raise your hand, we'll acknowledge your Carrie Ann. Okay, by Phil and support by Tony. All those in favor, please, thumbs up. Motion passed. Takes us to public comment. Public, if you're listening and you'd like to give a comment, let us know. Speak up, I guess, or Michelle can acknowledge you. And if there's anybody here for an appointment, we only have one and there's no recommendations, but now's the time to speak.
Nobody who's raised their hands.
Okay, we'll move on from public comment to the minutes from the June 8th meeting, looking for approval. Motion by Rodney, support by Darius. All those in favor, please
Oh,
raise your
hold on
hand.
a second. How about comments?
Sure. Go right ahead, Tony.
Under item from the Monday, June 8th minutes, under item 4A, which were the minutes of the May 11 meeting. Go down there, it says, motion by Phil Duckham, seconded by Darius Williams. Final resolution, motion fails. Not present to vote, Tony Bear, Rodney Walls, Phil Duckham, Darius Williams, and David Elwell. Okay, so the two people that made and seconded the motion and the other three committee members are listed as not being present to vote, and the motion failed. That's not my recollection.
Yeah, I would say that that's not accurate.
All right, let's change it before we approve it.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do will be to,
I don't know. I didn't pull up the minutes.
you're live, Mike. I'm not sure if you thought you were muted, but
No.
so if the commissioners are okay with it, those two making and supporting the motion, if you're willing to withdraw your motion, then we'll leave it till next meeting, get it sorted out and get it right. Okay, everybody's good with that? All right, we'll move on with no approval of the minutes and takes us to appointments. And we have Community Corrections Advisory Board, I believe. And it's an attorney position, if memory serves me right, and there were no applicants still. This is, I think, at least the second month. There's actually two. First one is a workforce development. It's vacant, and there's no applicants. Are there any recommendations from the floor for that position? It's workforce development. Phil, are you raising your hand? Phil Duckham. Phil Duckham. We'll give Phil a minute with the technology there. Phil, you didn't have a recommendation from the floor for that, did you?
No, I was
Okay.
jumping ahead. I thought he was going to criminal defense next.
I am going to that next, seeing so there were no nominations from the floor for workforce development. So this is a criminal defense spot. It's due to the resignation of David Lady, and there's no applicants. Did you have a recommendation on that one or not? Phil?
Question, do we need to fill this position with the indigent defense department stepping forward now? I see they got rid of all their contracted attorneys.
What was the question, Phil?
Do we need to fill this position with the
Yes,
indigent defense committee?
Yeah, yes, we do, Phil. It's the Community Corrections Advisory Board, which is a statutory board. And the statute tells us pretty much what background people need to be on it. And this is one of them that's by statute. And it's really not to do with indigent defense. It's to do with jail alternatives, essentially. So neither recommendation on either one of those. So we'll hold that for next month again. And Mike can continue to advertise it. That takes us to item C, which is the Circuit Court Grant Application Approval, which is from Community Corrections, I believe. Yeah. Anybody here from Community Corrections, or Deb, were you going to handle this, or? Mike,
No, I
as
was
you're looking?
expecting somebody from Circuit Court to be here. Let me check the participants.
Amy Dickerson oversees that committee. She's the one that put the grant together. Amy's not on here.
No, I didn't see. There's somebody on a 517 phone number.
If
But I don't-
anybody, okay, if anybody is on the meeting that's from Circuit Court or here on behalf of Community Corrections, can you raise your hand for Michelle, please? Okay, so what this is, it's a annual grant through the state of Michigan for community corrections. And I guess we could entertain any questions on it. It's pretty self-explanatory. It does go to the full board for approval.
Dave, did you want me to try and contact Circuit Court?
You can if you'd like, Deb, and we can hold it for a little bit later in the agenda. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, if you want me to do that, I can.
Yeah, that's fine. But if you can also clarify for me, it has it on here for committee recommendation, but I think this being a grant application, does it not go to the full board?
I believe so.
Okay, so we'll hold off on this then until Deb can see if she can get somebody from Circuit Court on. And it'll take us to item D, which is the 911 non-county member radio policy. Jason Hammond, I think I saw in here. And Jason, are you able to live the video or?
Let me take a look and see if
Yeah, I can get it.
Okay, we don't have to see you, but you can see us.
Dave?
We should be able to see you. Yeah, Tony, go ahead.
There we go.
The circuit court grant application approval. Sorry, you went faster than I could keep up with you on that. The deadline for applying was May 1. Can we even still put in an application and be accepted?
I think we can, and Amy Dickerson has talked with the state about that, Tony. And it seems like every year it's an issue with a date on it. They know it's a problem for us to get approval in the timeline they want. But Amy Dickerson does a good job of staying in contact with the state and getting it to us as quick as she can. So let's see if Deb can first get somebody from Circuit Court here to answer. Bill, did you have a question?
Yes, I was reading the application for the grant, and it's, we're just voting to accept it. It's already been applied for. We're voting to
Okay,
accept.
cool. Let's wait till later in the agenda for it, and Deb can see if she can get somebody on for it. So we'll go back to Jason with the 911 non-county member radio policy. Jason, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So this motion is to request to approve a policy and cost calculations for non-members joining the MPS CS system in Jackson County. The background, we moved on to the 800 system back on the 2016, went fully live in 2018 and 19. Currently dispatched has a total of 1,045 radios currently on the MPSC CS system in Jackson County, with a total of 5 radio towers, 3 that we maintain locally through service agreements. Surcharge money is only allowed to be spent on 911 call centers and directly attributed to the delivery of 911 services to police departments, fire departments, EMS departments, things of that nature. JATA contacted us back in December of 2019, requesting to be allowed to join onto the MPS system in Jackson County. During this process, we also found that the JPS has 69 radios on our system, which were allowed without us knowing back in 2016. Several conversations with MPSCS, JATA, the undersheriff, and myself took place over the next few months as to what was needed to not degrade the radio system and possible cost. One of the first things we did is a grade of service study. Grade of service study, what that shows, out of every 1,000 transmissions of pushing the PTT, which is the button to talk on a radio, the state required it to be under 2.0%. So every 2 times they push that PTT on the side, out of 1,000, only twice would they get bonked. That's the state recommendation, is 2. Right now, we are at 1.23, and that's at our highest percent, which is during the faster horses. In the policy that you guys should have, one of the other documents that I wrote, we lowered it the percentage to 1.7, so we wouldn't degrade the service. And we would be underneath what the state recommends, which is at 2.0%. We had several conversations with our 911 advisory board as well to review the policy with support as long as we follow the strict guidelines within the policy itself. So we don't allow someone on the system that would change the grade of service higher than 1.7. And we also had, I also had a lot of conversations with a few other PSAPs that allow other entities on their system. One was Eaton County, Kalamazoo, and Genesee. The difference between Eaton, and Kalamazoo is they both were funded by the millage. So they do not charge entities to get on to the radio system. Genesee charges a per radio fee to be on their system. And they have approximately about 12 different entities on their system that pay yearly cost as well. And we decided to go a little bit differently on the cost of the non-county members. Allocated cost was determined by calculating the non-county member percentage of use of total radios, which was 11%, and allocating the cost, which included a 3% tower rental based on the original investment in the radio towers, which was about $7 million, $7.1 million, for a total cost of $23,455, and a tower maintenance cost of $89,000, which is per year, for a total of $32,245 cost of the non-county members' allocation cost. Below that, Cecilia put together the cost there per JATA cost, which number of radios of 50, for total cost of $13,000. And I still have to have a conversation with Jeff Beal on the JPS radios that they have, which are 69, which would total about $19,000.
Jason, can I give you a couple of are you all set? And can I give you a couple of
Yeah, go ahead.
questions? So Jason, the deal with JPS was discovered, I think about the time our system was going live, that they were already on it on our system. And this agreement is retroactive to them. So we're actually approving that, and then they're going to be paying the same thing that anybody else coming on pays, correct?
Correct.
And then you talked about a per radio fee that some do, but specifically, I think we paid to MPSCS $250 per radio, a one-time fee. They're going to pay that themselves, correct? Anybody that comes on?
That is correct. That's actually in the contract agreement. That's spelled out in there that they would have to pay for the radio programming fee, yes, and their temp fees.
So they're buying their own equipment, they're paying their $250 mic fee, and they're paying for programming of the radio and for the template, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then Jason, on the policy that you've attached, it's a 3-page policy. I don't know if you have that you can pull up, but on page 3, it's item under cost, item number 3, and then to 2. The very last sentence says, also, please understand that once other entities are added to the radio system, the cost per radio will increase. Won't it actually decrease?
I wish Cecilia was here. The way it's figured, it would actually increase because you're putting more radios on the system. So the cost would go up as the maintenance stuff will stay the same for the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
I wish Cecilia was here to explain that more.
Yeah, because it seems to me like it would be just the opposite. The total cost would go up, but per radio, I think it would go down, but maybe not. And it's not super crucial.
I can get you that answer though.
Okay, that'll be fine. And then lastly, Jason, you and I had talked before about it, and I think there was a time when there was a concern about bringing these other entities on. We're going to tie up the system, and make it unavailable at times for police and fire needs in the county, but you're comfortable that that is not the case, yet that you're referencing that 1.7?
Yes, and then the other thing I also did is I had a conversation with MPSC. So the presumption of the radios will be at a number 7. So how the numbers work is 1 represents anybody with an emergency, like when the emergency tone goes off on the radio, they take precedent over all the radios. Anybody like JPS and JATA would be a number 7. So they would be put into the queue waiting for a channel to open up if that ever happened. So we would still take priority over everybody else. Because law enforcement, fire, EMS is a number 2.
Okay. Commissioners, does anybody else have any questions for Jason? Phil? You're muted, Phil. Phil, you're muted.
How about interconnectivity with neighboring counties? I mean, this is a statewide system. Can we talk to Calhoun County, Liberty, Lenawee County, so, stuff like that?
Yes, we have their channels and they have our channels, so we can talk directly to any other neighboring counties that's around us and throughout the state.
Okay, because I was thinking back on the jewelry store break-in where, because of the 800 radio system, we followed the perpetrators all the way to west side of Detroit because of the 800 system. We couldn't have done that before, so I'll make sure we had interconnectability and didn't miss out on that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Tony?
Looking at the contract, the first sentence, this agreement is made and entered into on what day of June? We need that updated, so it's July.
Yes.
We'll be sending it on to the full. Well, this is listed as committee action, but Mike or Deb, do you agree that this goes to the full board? I believe it does.
Yes, I agree that it would go to the full board. It's a new procedure and a new policy, so I think it's fair that everyone have an opportunity to speak or vote.
So prior to going to the board for final vote, let's update it to July.
Tony, is that the only thing that you have?
That's the only thing I had.
Okay, anybody else with any issues with it? And if not, Rodney, is that a motion or a question?
It's basically a statement. I wanted to let the committee know that when JPS come on, I was director of district operations at that time. And I was the one that actually instituted the radios for the buses because of lack of communication on our old VH system, our other system. And when this all came down, I talked to the representative from Motorola and asked them, I said, do you do other things such as schools? And absolutely, yes, he said. And I said, could you figure us out some numbers to do the 800 system for Jackson Public Schools? Because right now, at that time, the school district would travel to, DeWitt and different places and would never have any communication. Once we left, actually, the city of Jackson, there was no communication with the buses. We tried several different things. We tried working with cell phones, but the hands-free type of thing that went on, just didn't work. So we entered into this agreement with Motorola and the state of Michigan. We paid our mic fee. We did everything. And nothing was ever said about any of this additional charges until after the fact. The buses were already up and running. Everything was doing a great job. And I will not support this because none of this was ever brought up in the very beginning, or we'd have certainly budgeted for it and put it in there. So that's a little bit about the history and how this came about. I understand that there's actual, there's cost for it. When we did it, we set them up on a low priority so that if there was an emergency in the county that took preference. So that's just my comments on it.
Thanks, Rodney. Any other commissioners with any comments? If not, we'd be looking for a motion to send it to the full board. Tony and Phil. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, raise your hand. Rodney opposed and the others in support of sending it on to the full board. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Item E, the Animal Shelter Quarterly Report, and I think I saw Lydia on here. Hello, Lydia.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone today?
Fabulous.
Great. So we're going to start off with our report talking about the building update. And of course, because of everything that's happened with the pandemic, that was pushed back. Additionally, the bids came back quite a bit higher than what we were budgeting for. So we are looking at scaling back some different parts of the building to see what we can do to get within our budget. And additionally, we're hoping that maybe summer of 2021 we'll have a completed project, but you can expect to see some approvals coming through sometime in the near future. So stay tuned on that one. Any questions on the building?
No, Phil's got one there. Phil has one there, Lydia, it looks like.
Okay, hi Phil.
Phil, can you unmute? Phil, can you unmute?
Yeah, sorry. Good morning, Lydia. I'm sure it would help budget, but Modern Waste would be happy to provide you with a construction demo box when you build that as a donation. That'll save you some money. We'll be glad to do it.
That's amazing. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate that. Good news.
Lydia, go right ahead.
Okay. As you know, we were closed down in the months between March and June. During that time, we did not house any animals in the shelter. Every animal that we had in our care was in a foster home. Community was amazing in making sure that all our animals had a place to stay, so our employees were safe. We accepted 279 animals during that time period, and we also had that opportunity to really improve our foster program by not just growing it in number, but coming out with some comprehensive foster care guides and animal report cards to help people that are looking to adopt. So we really ramped up our foster program kind of because we had to right then. So, but that was a great win for all the animals and the people in the community. We were able to start doing dog therapy visits again. Some were outside of the windows of our retirement communities, and recently we've been able to do outside visits with our resident dogs, and kind of bringing some little bit of joy to the residents there. Also during the shutdown, our animal control went to 24/7 emergency calls. They also provided food on a regular basis to community members that may be struggling due to the pandemic or any other hardships that they were encountering. So we were making sure that no one went without food or had to surrender their animals because they couldn't feed them. When we shut down for COVID, I did apply for several grants to try to help us during that time. We received a $2,500 unrestricted fund grant from Maddie's Fund, $2,500 unrestricted Petco Foundation Fund, and $35,000 from the ASPCA. We are going to utilize those funds to get the supplies that animal control needs and our surgery suite needs to offer low-cost spay-neuter for the community during this time. So we're working on getting that up and running right now. Of course, our Bark and Brew has been postponed until 2021, and the vendors all seem to be okay with that. delay. In place of Spark and Brew, or maybe just something that new that popped up, is the social distancing amateur cornhole tournament. So that's going to be held in August of this year on the grounds of the shelter. It'll all be outside. We already have sponsors for that event as well. So it should be just a fun event that we can do outside where everyone can still social distance and come together. So we're looking forward to that event. We're still moving along and forward on our social media. We're increasing our return to owners with our page. We're getting a lot of engagement there, and return to owners have been higher than usual. So as you can, do you have my presentation in front of you by any chance?
We do, Lydia. It was available on board
Okay.
docs.
Okay, great. So you'll see that animal control, during that time period that we were closed, they responded 494 times. The bite calls went up significantly during the shutdown, and aggressive animal calls as well. And they assisted other agencies at 58 times during that time period.
Lydia, I have one question.
Sure.
On page 10, what's in the cage?
Is that the animal control
Yeah,
page? That is a feral dog,
okay.
Australian Shepherd, who now has since been adopted and now is living in Idaho,
Awesome.
I believe. Yep. So, our dog licensing is up and running at the shelter. When someone does an adoption or return to owner, it's becoming automatic that they get a license while they're here before they leave the building, so they're in compliance. And that's going very well. And again, during the time of the shutdown, you can see our intake numbers. We took in 240 dogs and 131 cats, 43 back to owner of the dogs, 138 adoption for the dogs, 93 cat adoptions, and that was all during the time that we were not open. So those adoptions took place over the phone, and then people came and picked their animals up outside the building. So there was still no contact. And you can see in our more than cats and dogs, I know animal control is typically responsible for responding to dog calls, per the ordinance. But if someone in the community calls us with an issue, we're going to do whatever we can to help them and take care of whatever issues they're having. So whenever possible, we will go above and beyond to make sure the needs in the community are addressed. A lot of these animals that you see up here kind of fall in the gap. Sometimes there's not really anyone assigned to handle all these different types of wildlife. And then lastly, I'll just say, if you hear anything from your constituents that they're having concerns or an issue, please feel free to direct them to me. If it's not something we can help them with, I will try to direct them to resources that can be of assistance to them. But at any time, we'll try to do what we can to make sure everyone's heard and that we're acknowledging that there's an issue and try to help them as best we can. So with that, do you have any questions?
Lydia, thanks for the great work, and if you'd relay that to your staff too, they do a great job there for us, and you've certainly turned that place around. Commissioners, any questions for Lydia? Okay, looks like we're set. Thank you.
All right, have a great day. Thank you very much.
Michael, that takes us to the Administrator Controller First Responder Hazard Pay Premium Program. It's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. Thank you. As I think probably most of you know, you've read the materials that we are have an opportunity with the state and the Fed to provide hazard pay for all those folks that were first responders in the COVID crisis, up to $1,000. And frankly, I think it's a worthy investment and a little bit of a risk, I'll say, but I don't believe very much of a risk. And that, what I mean by that is, we have to front that $1,000 and then seek reimbursement from the state. And it's first come, first served. Now, frankly, we're in the front of the curve on this. I think there'll be plenty of money to go around. If we were on the tail end of it, I'd be concerned. But at the same time, I think it's a worthy investment. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions for Mike on the program? And it's something that gets forwarded to the full board. So Darius first and then Tony.
Just one quick. As I read this over the weekend, I did see that there was around getting called by law.
I didn't catch all that.
Yeah, Tony, can you mute yours until it's your turn to talk? I think we're getting some feedback or something. And Darius, I barely could hear you as well.
Can you hear me now?
Try it
about
again, Darius.
I can go ahead.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So I did see that there was, as I was reviewing this, I did see that there would be a little bit of a turnaround receiving the funds back from the state. About how long are you projecting that would take?
Actually, I do not know that. I don't have answers to that. Hopefully not too long, but at the same time, we do have the resources to front those dollars.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Tony?
So Mike, if for some reason we did not get any money from this grant, the maximum amount that the county would put out would be 130,000?
Well, that's approximately, it's close to that number. Depends on exactly which employees ultimately fall into the category. We have to look at every employee that right down the list by name and position and so forth. We believe it's around 130, therefore 130,000.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Mike, I'll comment that when you and I talked about this, I told you it's my position that we should be, just in my opinion, paying our first responders enough all the time because they face things like this very frequently with the job they do. But this is the program that's being offered in front of us, and I strongly support it. So commissioners, if there's no further questions, we'd need a motion to send it on to the full board. Motion by Darius, second by Rodney. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Michael. Next up is item G, the JC Jackson City and County non-motorized plan.
Thank you. We have a guest today with Tanya from Region 2, and she'll be going through some of the information about the non-motorized plan, which is now ready for adoption. Tanya, are you on the line?
Let's see. Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Tanya, which document are you going to be going through? We've got 6 different documents here on board docs.
I prepared the presentation. JC.staff, I believe, prepared the other ones. I will say that so I will be going through that one in particular.
Okay.
The one that starts with PRES, correct?
Yes.
So committee members, that's the last one on the group, it looks like to me.
Right.
The 7-page document, Tanya?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
The floor is yours.
Michelle, can you enable screen sharing for Tanya or myself? I have it ready if you can enable mine.
Should have that already.
You said you should have that already, I think.
It says host disabled screen sharing for me when I try.
Should I try?
Yeah, if you can, go ahead.
All right, let's see. I am not allowed, I am not as enabled as well.
Okay. All right, now I can. There we go. So get it going, I think. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right, great. You just cue me, Tanya, to move forward if you would.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so on this first slide, this is a copy of a cover of the Jackson City and County non-motorized plan. So today, I just want to provide you a brief update. I believe I last talked to the County Board of Commissioners. I was invited to present on the plan. I've done it a couple of times over the last 14 months of this planning process project. And today is just a little bit of an update with the idea and the eye towards that there is a resolution in front of this group that would then be potentially brought forward to the County Board of Commissioners to consider adopting for the plan. So I want to provide an update and then be able to move forward in that. Also notice on the bottom, what is that, right-hand corner of the screen, there is a project website, and this is where the 140-page planning document, very visually oriented, is it lives on the Region 2 Planning Commission website. I'm not sure if the county will have their own home for this digitally on the plan, but at this time, if the commissioner members wanted to visit the plan, that's where it lives. Next slide, please. So this is just to highlight, I think we've talked about this a number of times, the public input process that we had, in addition to having a number of times where the public gave us input, surveys, both public meetings as well as having a project website to gather input, kind of anything people had to say about the plan. We had 2 public input processes specifically. On the bottom of the screen is just the timeline of the public input process. During that public input process, there was also a steering committee comprised of many members of stakeholders from the community, such as members from county staff, so JCDOT, as well as county parks, city staff, the YMCA, Consumers Energy, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, MDOT, the Jackson YMCA. We also had a village president, our village manager from the village of Grass Lake, and a township representative from Blackman Township, as well as a few others. So the steering committee members were varied and gave a lot of input as well. Also, just to let you know, as the final plan was completed in May, from March to May, there was another opportunity for anybody in the public to comment on the final plan draft as it was being prepared as well. So again, a lot of time for public input. Next slide, please. So these next couple slides, I just want to highlight some pieces I thought that was important just to kind of bring to mind again what the plan is all about. So this slide really is that county-wide, county-level network of the non-motorized plan, the recommendations that the consultants put forward with input from the public steering committee as well. So, and then based off of their research that they did as well. Just to highlight the red, it would be the trails that the consultants recommended. And some of them include the trail that already exist, like the Mike Levine Lakelands Trail, the Martin Luther King Jr. Equality Trail, as well the Falling Water Trail. Those ones more or less already exist. This is also just connecting into that network.
I'd like to ask a question at this point, if I may.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Chris, can you zoom in on this map into the city of Jackson, where when you zoom in and you get enough detail, it shows that this trail goes right through the fairgrounds, goes right through the area where the 4-H horse show competitions are, where the open horse show competitions are. I have made this comment for years before I became a commissioner. There's not enough land in the fairgrounds, Keeley Park, to run this path without destroying the 4-H horse barn, the 4-H goat and sheep barn, the 4-H chicken, duck, turkey farm, without destroying the 4-H pig farm, without destroying the 4-H small covered arena where the cattle are shown and auctioned, putting through the park where you've got it shown. It's going to wipe out the dairy barn. So you talked about input I've given input over 5 years. My input has been ignored. I will not support this plan because it will destroy most of the agricultural area within Keeley Park. And if you destroy the agricultural, you don't have a fair anymore. You've got a carnival. I think we just need to support our 4-H youth in this county. We need to support their 4-H shows and their competitions. And this plan destroys that.
So Tony, the map I'm looking at, or the slide I'm looking at, it when you expand it, I can't see that great a detail, but you've obviously been there and looked at the maps in greater detail.
Well, the one that Chris has zoomed in on here, when you zoom into about 180 to 200%, you can see clearly where Keeley Park is noted. The fairgrounds is noted. You can see the railroad, you can see the river, and you can tell this trail goes right through the 4-H and the agricultural part of our fairgrounds.
Tony, I don't doubt what you're saying, but this is a PDF. It looked to me like he zoomed in at 300%, and it's not bringing up that greater detail.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to get another exhibit for us.
I zoomed into it in much greater detail yesterday, and yes, I am 100% sure this is going through the fairgrounds.
I acknowledge that, Tony. I'm just making the comment that this map doesn't show that detail. I don't have any doubt that you looked at it in great detail. Tanya, can you comment on that, on Tony's concerns and how the committee has addressed that if they have?
Sure. So this is the first time I've heard this particular comment, so I can't, speak to it specifically. But what I was doing, it looks like Christopher was doing, I was trying to pull up a map that be able to zoom in on that particular, so I could actually speak to if it goes near the county park, if it goes through the county park. Again, I'm not saying that it doesn't. I don't have information now in front of me. Thank you, Christopher, to be able to comment on that specifically. So I would love the opportunity to get more information before I make a comment.
Tony, I think Chris is getting there. Just give him a second here.
If you go into the 140-page document, on page 106 is a map that you can easily zoom right in. He's getting to it there.
Mm-hmm.
I can speak to this to some degree, if I may.
Michael, go ahead.
Please. I was obviously, I've been a part of all the plans and all that stuff. And I know we had consultants drafting those plans, taking us through the process. I'm talking about the Keeley Park plans long before this particular plan here. That trail was slated to go on the west side of the river there, inside the fairgrounds, the Keeley Park fairgrounds there. And Tony's mostly correct. I'll say it that way, Tony. There are, I think that the open horse arena would have to be removed. The covered arena, what is that? The 4-H where they have the auction there arena.
That's where they show that's where they show the pigs and the beef cattle for auction.
Yep. That would have to be removed. And then the cattle barn on the north side there, along North Street, at least probably, I don't know, maybe half that building would have to be removed. I don't know, the whole thing would. The master plan for that park system, or for that park period, shows those, the horse stuff being relocated to the north side of the track. That location there was where they proposed a large arena for horses and moving all that stuff over there. I would reiterate that this is the long-term plan. I don't see any short-term potential for any of that to happen because, frankly, the dollars aren't there to do that at this time.
Mike, can I ask a question of you about property there? So, and I probably should know this, but does the county own the property between Keeley Park? Do we own all the way up to the river, all the way to North Street, or not? It seems like there's
right up to the river.
We also own property on the east of the river, the prison property that we purchased, and there was some other land that we have purchased on the east side of the river. 2019 county fair, we parked cars on county-owned property on the east side of the river and with golf carts shuttle people into Keeley Park. So yes, the county does own quite a bit of property on the east side of the river where this could be relocated to.
So Tony, let's let Olivia, or I'm sorry, Tanya, finish her presentation. And then we can come back to the discussion about where they should go or can go, if you're okay with that.
Okay.
Tanya, if you'd carry on with the rest of your presentation, and then we'll have some more questions at the end.
Sure, no problem. So I think what I had talked about was I was highlighting that there was green. The green color is the paved. So sorry. Take a step back. The red is the trail network. Sounds like we'll come back to that. The green color on this map are the priority paved shoulder routes rather. So this is where as JCDOT is maybe looking to put wider shoulders to help people get around across the county and biking and walking. These are the ideal routes that the consultant highlighted. And then the yellow markings are the gravel road routes. And this is from public input and the consultants as well, identifying where there are some gravel roads where people be ideal for them to bike and walk as well. So again, this is that high level, that county network. Next slide, please. The next slide, this is not necessarily meant to read, or it'll be harder to kind of zoom in and look at as well, but this is a representation of a 2-page spread for the part of the trail network that's being recommended. So if you look at the kind of the left side of the screen, there is a small little countywide map, and it shows you on there that this is the Hanover-Horton segment within the whole county, and then where the mouse is, I think where Christopher's looking, that's the more detailed portion where the trail is being recommended. So the idea here is you have that nice pretty map that shows you some, those red, that red color. This is a more detailed drilled down into, well, if you wanted to make this trail a reality, what is it, what are we talking about? You have information about the length of the trail, what the surface type might be, who owns the land, just a little bit of preliminary information, what the topography is. And then on the next page, there's just some more interesting information to help when we're looking at making this into a reality. Oh, go back, please, if you don't mind. Then such things like trail crossings, where there might be need to be a marked crosswalk, crossing the road, that kind of piece of information. And again, this is for that regional and county network, the trail, a little more detailed information for a trail. Next slide, please. And then within the plan, so the whole plan, because we're talking again about a county level and then a little bit more detailed level for some communities, there is for a local network, there's a community plan and map. So for a number of the communities across the county, such as the Village of Grass Lake, Blackman Township, Summit Township, places like Parma, Brooklyn, Springport, such like those, there is more detailed level. For example, something that might give you kind of even a sidewalk recommendation. There is a 2 and sometimes 4-page spread about what the consultants thought will be good recommendations for a non-motorized network. And so for an example, again, this is a snapshot of a 2-page spread of what the recommendations in the plan are for Summit Township. And this is a lot of information here to kind of take on and digest. But again, the idea here is to help the commissioner members know that when, for example, if JCDOT is working with Summit Township to look at what they might want to implement along a particular road when it comes to either redoing or resurfacing the road, the township and JCDOT can work together, having this nice, great visual kind of jumping off point to taking that next step. That's just another part of the plan. Next slide, please. And then with that last steering committee meeting, there was some good input. The steering committee members wanted a little bit more information about, well, what it would take to, again, take that trail. We're going to go back to that trail level, the county-wide trail, and make those into a reality. So the consultants put together a high level, a planning level, not a construction level, a planning level cost estimate as to what these trail segments might cost. So for example, there's a trail network, a small segment that was kind of broken down that would run from Parma to Albion. That would be section A. This has the number of miles as well as total cost and potential funding strategy. for another trail segment at that countywide trail network. There would be sort of the B Trail, Michigan Avenue to Chapel Road. And then that section, next one just wanted to highlight is the Hanover to Horton Road that the Hanover to Horton Trail potential that was highlighted in a previous slide. That was C. Again, here on this page, you can see where there's what the rail trail, what the cost is per mile, how many miles that it's projected to be, as well as the cost and funding strategy. And the next slide, please, Christopher. And then finally, even deeper level with this for a few of the trail routes that are highlighted in the plan would be a preliminary cost opinion, again, at a planning level based on 2020 pre-pandemic costs, what cost might be to actually implement some of these. And this is not meant to say this is what the price tag is going to be. This is just to give commission members as well as staff from the city and the county understanding what it might take to kind of implement these recommendations. Christopher, if you wouldn't mind going back to the very first slide. So this was just to kind of give commission members an update to what had been previously had been shared, as well as update to kind of what had come about at the last bit of public input. You know, what this plan really is it's laying the groundwork for a county-wide non-motorized network for the city as well as the county. This also provides an opportunity to coordinate efforts across the county, you know, township to township, between a township and a village, to have a seamless non-motorized network. With the adoption of this plan, it then becomes an official county plan, and it really enables county staff to be able to work to implement it, knowing that they have support of the county commission board. And then two, again, we had a 14-month collaborative effort, which is a pretty serious thing. And the last thing I just want to leave you with is the idea that, you know, we're looking at this today to hopefully implement something that would be very powerful to help strengthen Jackson County for its citizens, as well as anybody that would come to want to visit it. And what there would be before the commission members today is to consider that resolution to adopt the plan, which is another one of the attachments that go along with this particular part of the meeting today. So with that, I'm either happy to answer any questions and hand it back over to Christopher.
So I'd like to make a couple of points with Mike if I can first. And to be clear, my understanding is this goes to the full board for approval, correct, Mike? Or for review and potential approval. Okay. And secondly, to Tony's concerns about the path of the trail through Keeley Park, Mike, if we do have majority that shifts this on and it gets approved, how locked down does that make us, for instance, with the plan, or a concern of Tony's about the path of it and what it would take to make that path work through Keeley Park? What if
it doesn't lock us down at all. It is a plan that's something to consider today or in the future. They'll have to look at it. I don't disagree with Tony that it would be, frankly, probably a lot less costly just to go to the other side of the river, because you go up, what is that, Gantz, Mechanic, go up Mechanic across the street, and you go right on into what's already Armory Walks, Arts Walk Trail we have there. That's laid out. You can look at it on Google. It shows it right now. I'm looking at it. But in the original Keeley Park master plan, they had like 3 or 4 phases. I think it's 3. And then in that northern phase, and you can tell we've not done anything up there yet. The southern we've done, but the northern phase shows a big new horse arena at the northern end of the track where the track is. And you know, some relocation of barns to new things.
which would, Mike, which would allow accommodation of a trail if that part of the plan is followed, moving or putting new buildings in. Correct?
That's correct. But at the same time, it doesn't preclude future board to say, you know what, we don't think we really need to disturb the inside the fairgrounds. We can go to the other side of the river, so to speak, and do it there. There's an existing trail there. I mean, we could take it out, but at the same time, I don't think it's at this point necessary.
So Mike, to further that discussion just one step further, if it gets approved as it's written, how does the board go about changing that part of it? Say 5 years down the road, we're at the point where they want the pathway to come through Keeley Park. What would the Board of Commissioners have to do to maybe change the plan?
Literally just vote. They could say, we're not going to, remember, it's a plan. It's not like in stone. It's not some law that we have to follow or anything. It is our best guess, what we thought would work well at the time of creation of the plan. Would it be a nice trail as opposed to walking up North Mechanic Street? Sure. You're walking along a nice riverfront through we'll say a more natural area than walking along a sidewalk on North Mechanic Street. But at the same time, you have to take into the reality of dollars and cents and practical considerations. So, that'd be something to look at the time.
Thank you. Chairman Shotwell has been patiently raising his hand. Go ahead, Chairman.
Like to make the Board of Commissioners aware that there is a master plan for Keeley Park. It does recognize this trail location that was established back in 15 and 16. At that time, 4-H and a lot of the different people that would be using the different 4-H equipment on the north end of the property were taken into consideration. They were there, they were involved directly in the conversations. And at the time, we also met with the carnival people, and we also met with other people who utilize the fair property to make it the best possible usage of the property so it could become a park of 52 weeks, not just a park that sets 50 weeks a year fenced and is utilized only 2 weeks out of the year. We currently have a beautiful resource, a 100-year-old grandstand that's not being utilized. We have all of these assets that are completely underutilized. Now, the master plan that the parks has put together takes into account this trail, takes into account all the buildings Tony has talked about, takes into account all of the different aspects of the fairground. And as we've accumulated other properties, whether it be the properties on the north side of North Street or being involved in the recent acquiring of the old prison properties and all of this other historical properties that we have, that's all going to need to be put together into a new plan for the fairgrounds. And that would have to be done. And that would be, again, when we could address the issue of where we would like to see the pathway followed. That'll be coming up for review here. I think it's important that we support the review and that we all participate and get as many of our constituents to make sure they participate in this, so that way we can have documentation of what the community wants on these properties. It's very important that we're able to do this. And this will all come back again as a master plan in the parks, and Tanya's helped us in the past produce those. And we do those every 5 years, and we'll just have to make sure that as we update things, we take into consideration all of these different ideas. So with that in mind, the other thing you have to consider if you move the trail to the east side of the river is there's a railroad tracks, and security for people walking next to railroad tracks is not, the railroad company doesn't like that. And we've had ongoing issues. That's what happened at the Trail Street crossing. That's the reason why we did not bring the trail along the river down there. We had to move it to North Mechanic. And so involved in all of this, there are going to be many conversations, and everyone will have an opportunity to have their voice heard, just as we have with this and over the last year and a half that we've been working on this. Thank you.
Commissioner, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Duckham.
To add on to what Mr. Chair said, I think I was on the fair committee, and there's even going to be camping along the river during the fairgrounds, during the fair. So we better check how much space we actually have available. If we're going to allow camping, there might be a way to get the trail through there. Secondly, just for curiosity, I wonder, are we doing any trail use count? Do we know how much we're spending? And I know a lot of it's state money, but we're spending $30,000 here, I see. And I just wonder how many people are using it. I'm not against it at all, but spend our money wisely, you know?
Tanya, do you have the answer for that?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of any counts that have been done. I will offer that our Region 2 Planning Commission would be happy to work with county staff to see about setting a program up as well as getting funding to kind of do counts of, whether it's trail or on road. Other entities across the state do so, and it's actually been very powerful to support efforts. So I'd be happy to talk more with Christopher or whatever county staff next steps. But to my knowledge, there's not any counts that have been done.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
commissioners, are there any other questions? Tony?
Yes, I've looked at the concept plan for the north part of the fairgrounds. And I've made these comments for 2 years now, that as a professional who has prepared concept plans like this, yeah, nothing's fixed in stone. Things can be moved around. You're just showing placeholders for the different functions. That's what people have said to me. There's not enough placeholders there. If you look at the current amenities, the features around the livestock areas, the new plan does not have sufficient manure storage. That's a big part of showing cattle, showing pigs, showing horses. A lot of manure and bedding gets put into the manure bins every day. People come in with backhoes to pick up the large amounts of manure and get it hauled off. The concept plan does not have sufficient manure storage. It does not have sufficient circulation space around the buildings for the large trucks and trailers that come in there hauling multiple animals. All of these animals are washed before they're shown. The concept plan does not have enough wash racks indicated on it. After I reviewed the concept plan for the first time, I kind of questioned, did the people who created this concept plan, have they ever been to a fair? Certainly didn't look like they'd ever shown an animal at the fair, or they wouldn't have 4-H kids hauling their manure such a long distance to the one and only manure bin on site.
Tony, can I interject here that I think we're drifting from the trail plan to the plans for Keeley Park itself. And I think really the time, and I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but I think the time to have those conversations is as this plan potentially comes together for putting the trail there. It'll be good to have somebody like you paying attention to that, asking those questions, and make sure that at that time that it'll fit with everything else that we want there. And in all honesty, if the trail won't fit there, then it probably won't go there. But that'll be for another time. This discussion really.
The concern, strictly discussing the trail. My concern is the longer these concept plans stay out there, everybody says, no, it's not set in stone. It's a concept that can be changed. But the longer it stays out there this way, the more momentum it picks up. And everybody just keeps focusing that way. They're focusing the way the concept plan has been for years. And it just ends up that way. It becomes a huge fight later down to change it. I think the time to change it is now.
Well, Tony, I'm hopeful that you're around for a long time to keep track of it. And I don't think even you would want buildings that are in place there forever. If there's a chance to upgrade buildings and improve things, I'm guessing that you would support that. And I'm hopeful that you're around to have those same discussions when it gets to that. So if we can move on, if there's any other commissioners with questions, Darius.
I don't have a question, but I do have just a quick comment. Just wanted to say thank you to Tanya for your job in helping getting this prepared into this stage. One of the first subcommittee meetings I've had that I had, once elected, was attending the Region 2 committee. So I've been able to watch this progress over the last year and a half, and to see it reach the stage is really good. This plan has my full support. I think this will be a really good asset for us to utilize here. And I'm hoping, and I think that we'll be able just to see good tourism that this will bring to the county. And so there's just a lot of positive aspects I believe this can have. So just wanted just to take that moment just to say thank you. And Chris as well, your input has been helpful. Just wanted to say thank you guys.
Thank you, Darius. Okay, if there are no more questions, motions in order to send it to the full board. Rodney, is that a question or a motion?
Actually, it can be both. Just a comment. I do support Tony in his due diligence here, because I think that the 4-H program is somewhat of a dying art, and we really need to give that a good shot in the arm. There's only a handful of kids that are out there that are trying to learn, and I think that they need the support of us to make sure that that program exists. And yes, I would make the motion to move this forward.
There is support by Phil Duckham. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 4. Those opposed? Tony in opposition, if you have it so noted, Carrie Ann. And thank you for the discussion, Tanya and Chris. Thank you both. That takes us to item number H on the agenda, the JC.Act 51 report.
Great, thank you. This is an annual presentation of our Act 51 report, which shows compliance with Public Act 51 of 1951. So I'll share screen here real quick. Let's see, there we go. Just a couple, 3 highlights I wanted to share with you all. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. Grab my notes here, one moment. All right. In sum, I just want to share that we finished the year very healthy. And one of the things that folks will note is that our fund balance is quite high. I think we're at 19 million, 20 million, 21 million, somewhere around there. Normally, a road agency is 3 to 6 months of its MTF revenues. So our MTF revenues are about $1.5 million per month. So between 6 and 8 million would be a normal fund balance for a road agency our size. But we're in the midst of record levels of road work and record levels of township participation, and also federal and state grant receipts. So we have been very ambitious, and that's reflected in the report. So I'm going to jump to page, let's see here, 7. That's really where the heart of the whole thing is. It shows a statement of changes in fund balance. And I've highlighted here what our beginning fund balance was at the beginning of 2019, and then where it was at the end of 2019. So we basically held level, and you might remember that we issued bonds in the fall of last year. Those were deposited into our fund balance, and the reason that we needed those was to continue our matching dollars towards township road projects and to purchase some capital in the form of equipment that leverages our limited resources. So very good news as we maintain that level, and we're going to spend that down. So next year you'll see that drop pretty dramatically, and we'll get closer to that $6 to $8 million number. Just one thing to remind and show you all is that our primary road fund, you should see that that's 0. That's normal. That's what we should show. We try to transfer everything out of that, and you'll see those transfers right here. We basically took County Road Commission funds, which is the most flexible place to have our money, and we moved 3.7 million over to primary roads to cover the shortfall. That's our using our fund balance to match the road work. And then we moved 12.2 million over to local road funds to bring that to 0. So total transfer of 15.989 million out of the County Road Commission fund. Sorry for the name, but in legal terms, we still are a road commission. You're just our road commission board. rather than having a separate autonomous road commission board like 76 of the other counties in the state have. The next thing to show you real quick would be, ironically, the non-motorized sheet, which is page 15. I just want to point out, while we're talking about the non-motorized plan, that we're actually required by Act 51 to spend some of our MTF receipts each year on non-motorized project improvements. So you'll see here, many years we only spent just a few dollars. We had some high years back in 2011 and 2012. The average over 10 years, as I've highlighted here, must 1% multiplied by 10 years, we need to spend an average of 1.8 million over a 10-year period. We're currently at 2.4 million, so we meet that requirement. So many of these pages within Act 51, the Act 51 report, are basically checks and balances. They're tests to see if we've satisfied all the criteria within the legal requirements of MTF. So we do. This is a gold star. We've exceeded the requirement, but I just want to note that as our MTF dollars have risen since the 2015 road funding bill, so have our requirements. They've risen to put into trails and trail improvements. Back in 2018, we had the Ann Arbor Road Trail Project. So when things like trail projects come up, McDivitt is another one looming right now for us. Those are great opportunities for us to satisfy this requirement. I know out there in the public, people will criticize and say, what are they spending? Our roads are bad. What are they spending all that money on trails for? Well, your answer to them is we have to. We're legally required per this test here to satisfy this 10-year average. And over the next couple of years, a couple of our beefier projects that back in the past are going to fall off. We do have this nice year back in 2018 that helps the average, but we're going to have to make sure in 2020, 2021, and so forth that we have more trail, non-motorized type project expenditures. And by the way, when we widen the road and add paved shoulders, we can count the costs associated with the widening of the road for walking, jogging, and cyclists and so forth. The last thing I'd like to show you real quick is page 19. That's what I call the good news sheet. At the bottom, you see the total preservation and structural improvements work. So you'll see here that we had 11.8 million in the primary road system. We're 100% responsible for those. Over here on the right, the local road system, all the township roads, we had, I think this might be a record level, 21 million or close to record level. Last year we were also hovering around that point. But together, this is $32.9 million in road improvements, which on a per capita basis statewide, Bruce is helping me with some research, but we feel so far from what we're seeing, we rank number one in the state for dollars spent on roads. So we're going to, cement those figures and make sure you're aware of that so that you can share the good news with our community. So when people are impatient about the amount of road work being done, feeling that we're going slow in Jackson, you need to correct them. We are going at breakneck speed compared to the rest of the county statewide. So we're doing all we can for our community. Now, maybe related to this, I'll draw you to page 21 in case, you want to know how many dollars were spent in your particular townships in your district. This table here on page 21 shows you that. Now, the thing is, it includes primary road work. So you'll see some high dollars starting in Blackman because of their millage. You'll see a whopping 12.2 million in Summit. And then over to the right, you see what they matched with. They provided us with $9 million. Up in Blackman, they provided us with $1.7 million to match their project improvements. Some of these other townships with a lot of dollars, it might be a bridge project, it might be some paving we did on the primary road system, and so forth. So you'll see Spring Arbor had 4.5 million as well. So, and you'll see some low dollars in some of the townships. If you have questions about your particular townships and you want to break down those details, we have those statistics for you. But all told, what's really astonishing here is, and I think we may be leading the state again, in our township contributions at 13.4 million. That's really the biggest reason that we're able to get all this road work done, is that they've stepped up to the plate and provided the matching dollars. So I think that's all I wanted to share with you, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for Chris? I see nobody's hand going up. So we need to send this on to the full board for action. Is there a motion, Bill? And Darius? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Tony, you're muted in. I can't see your camera. If you can signify if you're voting yes or no for this. Okay, so far I've got 4 of us. Michelle, is Tony still on here? He disappeared from my screen.
No, he dropped off.
Okay. Carrie Ann, if you can just hold the vote on that till Tony comes back on, and we'll see how we voted, and we'll move on to the next item. Next up is item I. It's the JC.2020 micro surfacing.
All right, thank you, Dave. By the way, normally Angie would present these items, but she's out sick this morning, so I'm trying to pinch it and cover for her.
Chris,
bear with me
Chris,
here. Yeah.
Chris, can you hold on for a second? Tony, we voted to send the Act 51 report onto the full board. Did you vote? Would you vote in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay. Carrie Ann, if you'll so note it, and thank you, Tony and Chris.
I don't know why this thing just dropped out. It just blanked me out in the middle of it.
Yeah, trust me, it happened to me that one night too.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead, Chris.
All right, thank you. Let me pull up the map that's attached with this, just to explain what we're doing. Can you see the map okay?
Yes.
All right. This is a zoom in of Spring Arbor Township. And as part of the arrangement with our millages for the townships, when they passed those, when the voters of each township passed it, we made assurances that we would improve every single road that's in the jurisdiction that was local to the township. So some of the roads did not need a lot of work, and so we felt that the best fix is what we call a microsurface, which basically is not a chip seal. It's actually a very thin layer of asphalt applied to preserve the existing road and extend its life. So it's not a fix you've seen a lot of in Jackson County, but we're anxious to do some of our first projects and give it a shot here in Spring Arbor Township. So this map shows 2 areas, one over here on the left and the other on the right. And it's a total of 1.7 miles roughly. And in the staff report, you'll see a list of 8 projects that are projected to be microsurfaced. And we're happy to report that the bids were 20.5% lower than the engineer's estimate. We originally thought, based on historical bid prices, we'd be up around $86,000, and our low bid to Pavement Maintenance Systems LLC came in at $68,500.
Chris,
So we're looking for your approval.
Can I interject a question? How thick is the micro surfacing when it's applied? Is it a standard thickness or?
A normal overlay of asphalt is 1.5 inches usually. You can do a thin overlay of regular HMA at about 1 inch-ish, but the rocks are too big. So a microsurface is actually right around 3/8 of an inch, maybe 1/2 inch or so. So it's much thinner, but it gives a very smooth ride and a very nice finish. In subdivisions, it's the preferred method because people just generally don't like chip seal. The loose stones for bike riding, walking dogs creates a real mess. So that's why we're being innovative and trying a mix of fixes to try in subdivision neighborhoods.
Okay, commissioners, any questions of Chris? Bill? You'll unmute.
Good morning, Chris. This 3/8 micro cover you're talking about, wouldn't that just follow the existing contour of the road? If there's a crack in the road, it would create a ridge, but no crack?
Well, we try to get out ahead of it, and we'll wedge any low areas with HMA and or spray patch some of the cracks and fill those in before we do the micro. So there's like some
Maybe
pre-work
it's gonna
before
look
we
pretty,
put.
but it could have the same contour as the existing road.
Right. Now remember that the roads we're proposing to microsurface are actually really good roads. So they're not what we might be
Okay.
imagining as beat up old roads. We wouldn't propose that. That would either be an overlay or a reconstruction or a recycling.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
So Chris, this is really to seal any potential cracks or gaps where moisture could get into then, essentially?
Exactly. It's a very
Okay.
thick coat of paint. Think of it that way. Similar to a chip seal.
Okay, any other questions for Chris, commissioners? And if not, it looks like by the amount this gets approved at committee, Michael, is that accurate? 68,000, I think, right? Okay, is there a motion? Motion by Darius, supported by Duckham. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Item J, JC Alley Abandonment, Norval Township. Chris, I assume.
Yes. I'm going to have Bruce Cruz, who's our management analyst who specializes in policy and legal issues. He is a licensed attorney, for any of you that don't know that. So he does some of our research behind the scenes, working with our county attorney as needed, and also with myself and Administrator Overton. So Bruce, are you on the line?
I am. I can't
Morning,
turn the
Bruce.
video on. It's disabled by the host, but I'm here.
Okay, do you want me to show?
I can take care of that for you. Just give me 1 second.
That's all right. Thank
Okay. And incidentally, while we're waiting, we have two of these issues. Norval and Summit Township each have an issue, and they've kind of been brewing in the background for quite some time, and we've been researching possible resolutions, and so we're recommending abandonment of that in both cases.
This first one in Norval, the end result of both of them are going to be the same. The difference really is in how they came to our attention. This one in Norval Township, I got a call from Eric Johnson, who's the township supervisor, asking me if it was possible to do anything with this alley. As you may be aware, many of the lakefront subdivisions throughout the county have platted alleys. They're full of these platted alleys. 99% of them were never constructed. This one here in Norval Township is an example of that. There's no alley that's ever been constructed. When the plat was originally made, there were, and you can't see me because my camera's not on. I'm demonstrating with my hands, but you can't see it. There were 3 lots, and the alley provided access to the back lot. Since then, here we go. Since then, those three lots have all been combined together into one. So really, the alley provides a driveway for this lot, and that's it. It's surrounded on 3 sides by the same lot, and on the 4th side by the road. It does not provide any access to the water. It's just essentially useless. So the reason Eric was calling me about it is that the property owner there is trying to put an addition on her house. And while she doesn't need to construct on the alley itself, she does need to get close enough to it that it provides it presents a problem with their township setback ordinance. And so basically his question was, is there a way we can get that abandoned so that we know for a fact that the county's never going to do anything with it?
Bruce?
Yes, sir.
On the diagram that's attached, it's in page 2 of the document. I think Chris is on the right one.
Yep.
It kind of looks like, well, it's the bolded one, I'm assuming, but
Yes.
it looks like the alley already goes through the house. Is that not?
It's not.
It's not? Okay.
That's pulled from the GIS website, and the location of the house on there is not entirely accurate.
Okay.
It goes kind of right beside the house. I was out there last 2 weeks ago and took a look at it. We also had our engineering staff go out and take a look at it, make sure that they didn't have any future need for it. There was no drainage concerns that we needed to worry about. There's no utilities running through it, all that kind of thing.
So none of them are lakefront, and by the look of the petition, there's nobody that was opposed to us taking this action, correct?
Correct.
Okay, is there anything else we need to know, do you think?
Not on this one. This one's pretty straightforward.
Okay,
I have a
Commissioner Diaz,
question.
I can't see who it is, but go ahead. Is that Mike?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask a question about, is there any communication with equalization, or is there, regard to assessing or anything? I assume, well, you know how that can be, that assessing is already taken into consideration that they're using that property as if it were their own outright. But at the same time, it's an easement. So I'm just curious if it makes a difference or changes anything.
I don't
Bruce, go ahead.
will, because what we're doing here, or rather what the full board will do, doesn't actually technically change the ownership of it. That would require an amendment to the plat, which then they would have to. The statute does require that I do some checking with the Register of Deeds office, but it doesn't require any coordination with equalization.
But Bruce, would it not potentially increase the value of the property of that lot owner or not?
If the property ownership actually changed, I think it would. But again, that would require an amendment to the plat, which would require her to go retain her own counsel and seek that amendment. In the meantime, I just actually presented on this at the County Road Association's legal symposium last winter. In the meantime, as we abandon it, it then is no longer the county's responsibility, but it does remain a platted area that's technically available to the use of anybody who owns property within the platted subdivision. It's just not a road that, a road right of way anymore. Changing that is what the plat amendment would do. And then I think it would have an impact on property value.
Chairman
If I may just follow up briefly, real quick.
Yeah, sure. And then Chairman
Bruce,
Shotwell.
Thank you. Bruce, to change the plat, doesn't that require you go to court?
Not necessarily, not most of the time, but as
It does or does not?
Not there, it might. That's the best I can give you. There is a shortcut procedure, just like we're allowed to do this without a public hearing because all of the property owners that are affected agreed. There's a similar provision with a plat amendment that might allow you to do it if everybody in the area agrees without a court.
Okay, so if everybody in the plat agrees, you could do it. If they do not, you probably have to go to court and get a judge to rule on it.
I don't know if it's every single person in the plat or if it's every single person whose property touches it. That's one of the reasons that I've advised them that they need to go hire their own counsel to do that, is that I'm not an expert on that aspect of it.
Chairman Shotwell.
Commissioner, I'll just let you know, Corey also has his hand raised.
Okay, he'll be after Chairman Shotwell.
So Bruce, we're notifying the township that we're removing our responsibility as a road commission. It becomes their responsibility, and we're sure there's no utilities coming underneath that alley.
Yes, to all of the above.
Where'd he go?
He said yes to the above, all the above.
Okay, I just worry that we end up as we have with other pieces of property where someone comes back 5 years from now and there's utilities running underneath something and they need to have access to it, and I don't want us to have to deal with that. I can think of a property on Kibbe Road right now that someone put a pole barn over the top of that's got a sewer drain going underneath it.
Bruce,
So,
can you?
It's a very good concern. We have the same problem out on McCain Road, where the road commission allowed somebody to build a house over a drain. So I'm just very concerned about these type of situations where the house upon sale all of a sudden has to be condemned versus sale.
Bruce or Chris, could you, on future ones like this, and maybe even this one, because it goes to the board, just provide a document that you confirm that the chair's concerns have been addressed and there's nothing underneath it?
Yeah,
we can
absolutely
update
do
the
that.
staff report.
I can tell you for a fact that we did that. That we checked all of our records. We had engineering go out and physically take a look at it, and we are confident there is nothing under it.
That's great, but just for future
yeah.
concerns, if we can document it in paperwork somewhere, even in the staff report is fine.
Absolutely. I can make
Uh,
that.
Corey, if you can hear me, if you had a comment or a question, go ahead.
No, I lowered my hand. She just didn't catch it. Mike's question resolved my question.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? Tony?
The landowner around this alleyway is going to receive value. If they can build on this, or the zoning will let them build closer to it than the setbacks normally would be, that they are receiving some value. What's the county receiving in return? That's one question. I guess that's my main question. We need to make sure, like Chairman Shotwell said, there's no utilities in it. We need to verify that. And why are we maintaining ownership of it? Why are we not just selling it to this landowner? Because they will receive a cash benefit.
I would say we receive two things. One is kind of the intangible of providing benefits to our residents, especially when it's something that we've never utilized in the first place. We haven't put any money into it. We haven't done anything with it. We don't maintain it. It's undeveloped right of way. That was just given to us. We didn't buy it. But the other thing that I think is a bit more tangible, when I did that presentation for the legal symposium for the County Road Association last winter, I did it together with the County Road Association's council. And his big recommendation is that anytime, and this would be a huge undertaking, and I'm not suggesting that we undertake it on a, global scale, but his recommendation is anytime you have right of way that you aren't using for anything, get rid of it, because it's a liability. There's always liability attached to right of way we have. And if we have absolutely no use for it, we should get rid of it and get rid of that liability with it. So while she may get, some benefit, we get the benefit of getting out from under whatever liability that might be.
But Bruce and Chris, really for your benefit too, Tony has a valid point, and that is that, we've historically seen a list of properties that the county owns, which could be JC. Which is us, all throughout the county. And some of those pieces I think are probably very valuable. When do we decide that the taxpayers in the county should benefit from that? Or should we be just allowing it to go back to the people that are there?
Bruce, as I recall, the statutes are pretty specific on how you can abandon a road, and I don't know if it allows for sale, correct? You offer it first to township and then DNR, or is that only waterfront parcels?
That's only waterfront parcels.
Okay, so if it's not a waterfront parcel, then abandonment is direct reversion to adjoining property owners, or do we have the option to sell? Do you know?
In this particular instance, I don't think we do, because it's a platted subdivision. We're not actually changing the ownership. We're just saying it's not ours.
Okay, perhaps we can do some research on that particular question between now and the full board meeting, just to find out for sure. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to talk with Mike and our chair about a strategy, so that we're not making one-time decisions that are different down the road if it's a different parcel. So that's just my suggestion. But Phil, you have a question?
Yes, this is in my district, and I would submit that this is just nothing more than a platting map error in the past. And with the accuracies of the satellite flyovers, GPSing roads and locations, we're just simply correcting an error. And we're never going to use 300 square feet of the guy's yard. Let's correct the map and put it right. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's suggesting we shouldn't move forward with this, Phil, and I support it. But so if there's no more questions, we're ready for a motion to move it on to the full board for approval, if that's the inclination. Okay, so Rodney's motion and Phil's support. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. And those opposed, and it passes unanimously. Thank you. Same thing, one in Summit Township, Chris or Bruce?
This one's a little bit different in how it got started. I actually started this one because as we were getting ready to do all of these local roads in Summit Township, I was looking over the map and I saw this little alley and I said to myself, what purpose does it serve? There's plenty of, other routes, there's other roads that access that area. It runs between two parcels. It doesn't provide access to anything. Why are we paying to maintain this? And so I went and I asked our engineering department the same question, and their response was, no, it serves no purpose and we'd absolutely love to get rid of it. So we approached the township. The township said basically the same thing. Yeah, we don't think it serves any purpose and we'd love to not have to pay for 70% of it going forward. So we went out and we took a look at it. It's on a fairly, what you can't see from this is it's on a fairly steep incline. And as you get to what on this map is it's the south end of the alley, the bottom right there. You can see how close those trees get to West Vandercook Drive. And, I was personally driving it 2 weeks ago, and well, not the alley itself, because I'll get to that in a second, but on West Vandercook, and I drove the alley a couple of months ago. It really is a blind corner there. You can't really see around those trees real well, which hasn't been a huge problem. I don't think there's any accident history there because the speed limits are so slow, but it is really hard to see there. It's also very narrow. It's difficult to plow. There's just all kinds of problems with it. So we approached the adjacent landowner. There are only two. One of them was a little more difficult to get a hold of. One of them was really easy to get a hold of. And she said, absolutely, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it gone. She's got her own issues with it. It runs very close to her house. There's a lot of dust that comes off of it that ends up in her house, aggravates her asthma. She's just got all kinds of reasons that she would like to see it gone. So she agreed to be the one to spearhead the petition. She's the one who got it around for signatures. She talked to her neighbor, got her neighbor's agreement, as well as the occupant, because part of the statute that allows us to do this without a public hearing requires signatures, not just from landowners, as would normally be the case, but also from occupants, so that everybody's on board. Everybody signed the petition. Everybody's good with it. Again, we had engineering take a look at it. No utilities to be concerned with, no drainage that runs down that hill. It doesn't come anywhere near the lake, so no, we're not worried about the lakefront issue. It just kind of seems to create a hassle for just about everybody, us and the residents. And it's cheaper to let it go than it is to continue to maintain it. At this point in time, that entire neighborhood has been reconstructed with the exception of that alley. While we had the equipment in the area, we went ahead and pulverized it, but we haven't done anything else with it. So essentially, you have three options. The first option, and the one we're supporting, is to just go ahead and abandon it and let it go. We see no need for it now and no need for it in the future. The other option would be to keep the right of way in case we ever needed it for drainage or anything of the like, which we don't think we will, but we could keep the right of way and just decertify the road. Again, CRA's counsel and I both advise that if you have right of way that you have no need for, get rid of it because there's a liability there. So that's why our recommendation is to just let it go. We have plenty of opportunities to deal with drainage in the area, and having just redone those roads, we've looked at all the drainage issues and we don't have any issues that we need to deal with there. So.
Okay, commissioners, any questions of Bruce? Bill?
Is it possible to delete it as a county right of way, but in that agreement, maintain an easement in case we do need it for drainage?
We could. Again, we've looked at it and we don't see the need for it, but there's no reason we couldn't.
Okay, I'm familiar with the little shortcut there, I guess I would call it, but I don't see a need for drainage either, but I'm not wearing your shoes. I just wondered, you know, if it would be
Yeah.
wise to retain it, it's for nothing.
No, that's why we had engineering go take a peek at it.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, can you get rid of your screen share, please? Thank you. Hey, commissioners, any other questions of Bruce or Chris? Tony?
Yeah, Bruce, you said the previous payment was pulverized. The adjacent resident has problems with the dust created.
Yes.
If dust is being created, does that mean people are driving this alleyway?
From time to time,
Okay, if we
it does.
give up our right to it, what's going to prevent people to continue driving on it?
There won't
Would
be
it
a
get
road
better?
there anymore. We've already pulverized the surface. And then as soon as this is approved by the board, we'll go back, throw some topsoil on it, seed it. It'll be a yard. There'll be no road for them to drive on.
Okay, so there's going to be a slight cost to the county for topsoil
Yes and
seeding.
no, we can characterize it as a cost in that it does cost us money to do that. We can also characterize it as a savings in that it's a lot cheaper for us to do that than it would be to go back.
Okay. Well, same question as the previous alley abandonment. The owner is receiving value. Is the county receiving any cash for the land value that we're giving to them?
We don't have to patch it. We don't have to pave it. We don't have to plow it. We don't have to do anything to it. So I think we get quite a bit of value on this one in terms of saved maintenance costs.
Thank you.
Hey, commissioners, if there's no further questions, we need a motion to send it to the full board. Motion by Phil, second by Rodney. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Item L, the milling drum. Chris or whoever.
Yes.
And Chris, we have 17 minutes left, Chris, with more items.
All right. Very good. One moment here. I'll pull up the screen here. This is a proposal to purchase just a drum for our W150. It's our small mill. And I'm going to screen share real quick to show you the images from the flyer. If I can get to it.
This is the flyer you're pulling up, Chris?
It is. And
Okay.
there we go. So this is a picture of this is not our actual mill, but it's from the flyer. And there are times when we need to mill. Our normal milling drum is like number 2 here. It's very coarse, so it's just think of sandpaper. And sometimes MDOT in particular asks us to shave off bumps that form in the interstate and or trunk lines. And we've done this on I-94 for them. And they're really delighted that we have that ability, that we can just load up our mill and quickly shave off some of these bumps, which can get quite dangerous, especially in the heat of the summer like this. So we're proposing to buy one that looks more like number 3. It's a microfine milling drum. And so it's a much finer sandpaper. You can't mill very deep, but you get a very nice finish. So one of our projects right now that you're familiar with is Town Road, where we have recycled that road. And it needs what I call a kiss mill, just a very fine sandpaper over the top before we put down chip seal. So while this looks like an expenditure, and it is an expenditure, the return on investment is very fast. Because if Town Road can be kiss milled with this micro drum, we are able then to use the chip seal at $20,000 or $30,000 a mile instead of hot mix asphalt at $100,000 to $120,000 a mile. So the payoff is very fast, and it makes our pilot projects very successful. Concord Township is also looking at a similar project to Town Road, where we're taking gravel roads and converting them to a recycled base plus a chip seal. So this will be a very important tool to add to our arsenal for that reason.
Hey, commissioners, any questions, commissioners? If not, a motion's in order and it gets approved at committee. Motion by Darius, supported by Tony. And all those in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Monthly report, Chris. Chris.
Okay. Sharing screen once again. You have the full report, and I won't go through the whole thing, although there is quite a bit of exciting and juicy stuff in here, if you ask me. But what this really shows is how darn busy your DOT department has been this year. We're in the heat of the summer, literally and figuratively right now, but we're getting a lot of work done. The table of contents speaks for itself, kind of shows you all the different things that are happening right now. So I'm just going to highlight a few things super fast. On the third slide here, you see what I call the spaghetti map, which it shows basically the diversity and volume of work that's happening. It does not show the status of the projects, but it kind of shows for any particular township whether or not something's happening this year or not, and what exactly is happening, and all the details our staff can provide you with if you need that. Going on to slide number 4, that would just be what we call our preventative maintenance, another word for overlay. So this doesn't maybe look like much, but this is very expensive to put down these overlays. And it's basically what we call the Saving the Savable Roads program, where if that road is decent, you know, pacer rating of 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, we want to put some asphalt on that and try to get 10 more years of life out of it before we have to go recycle it or rebuild it. So that's what we've used the federal aid dollars that we purchased last year for, is a lot of this work. Moving on, I'm going to jump to
Page
slide
53.
11.
Oh,
What's that?
I'm sorry. I thought page 53 it said. I'm kidding, Chris.
Yeah. Page 11, I just want to show this because this is Norval Road, and frankly, this is what makes driving around Jackson County fun right now. We have a beautiful community, and it's just a pleasure to be able to drive down roads, and instead of focusing on which pothole to avoid, you're able to actually look around and just enjoy the nature and scenery of our gorgeous community. So we're going to see more and more of these in time. So it's just a moment to just say, wow, you know, things are looking pretty good. Slide 13. Again, is a map showing for each of the townships, we're trying to show you a status map. Where are we at, like a dashboard? Is it in progress? Is the base completed? Have we recycled it, in other words, or crushed it? And then is the paving complete? That would be green. So as the season progresses, you want to see more and more of the green, and the blues are not yet touched so far. So there's one in here for Blackman, and there's Spring Arbor as well. So then shifting to 20, we focus a lot on Spring Arbor, Summit, and Blackman, but we're well aware of the fact we have 16 other townships out there, and we try very hard to work with them on any interest they have in doing road jobs. So this shows you a snapshot of the 7 different townships that have projects on our books right now. And you can see Concord has an aggressive program, but each of these numbers corresponds to a subsequent, like for example, number 1 in Springport, that's Town Road. Recycling is now complete. It's kind of ugly right now, but it will look good, very good. In fact, when we're really happy with the results on the recycling. You basically have 8 inches of solid base that just needs to be capped off with that chip seal. So then you see in the subsequent slides, each one focused on. Now I'm going to jump quickly. I wanted to tell you a little bit about our BioSeal. That's on slide 35. There we go. This is the innovative program where we bought a truckload of this stuff last fall, and we're going to continue to coat some of these roads with what I affectionately call road lotion, which basically protects it from UV. It's an alternative to chip seal. So we want to prevent cracking, we want to prevent that oxidation of that asphalt and keep it soft and pliable rather than getting hard and rigid and cracking. So it's innovative, but proven. There are many studies that show that after 10 years, you have minimal cracking on roads that have been treated. And so we're optimistic, and we're continuing to do this. You may see a proposal coming in August to buy another truckload of this. I think we have quotes coming in, so stay tuned. We're evaluating those right now. Basically, all these roads that we're getting new pavement down on, I drive around and I sweat bullets just knowing that that asphalt is deteriorating day by day. So when we put this material down on the roads, it's protected for about a 3-year period. And the cost per mile is about $5,000 per mile, whereas chip seal is $20,000 to $30,000 a mile and does the same thing. So it's very cost effective and really takes care of the roads that we're building. Chip seal program is here. It's not as aggressive as it has been in years past. We're looking at 13.7 miles of chip seal work this year. We're trying to be surgical and deciding what should be chip sealed versus bio-sealed versus overlaid. So we've cut back the chip sealing program by about $600,000. And even if the bio-seal costs us $200,000, we're going to get, 5, 6, 7 times more roads coated and protected than we would with the traditional chip seal. And I'm real proud to report our pothole patching is finally making its way around the county. They're currently in this quadrant of the county, and we're expecting to be done here by the end of the month, and we'll have a final tally on all the tonnage. So far, we're under budget, which is good news, but some of the rains in May held us off on getting early progress, but it's a very successful program. Yes.
Chris, I don't mean to cut you off, but we got about 7 minutes left and we have to get approval in on a circuit court program. Can I ask if any commissioners may have any questions of your report this far? Is there anything else critical you need to tell us, Chris, in the rest of the report?
Nope, my last item was just this one to show how we're tracking service requests when people call us. You can see here a polka dot map showing from January to July what we have for all the calls, and then you shift gears to the recent map, and you can clearly see that our pothole patching program has been successful here as it works its way around the county.
Chris, I appreciate the good work of JCDOT and all the staff. They've been working very hard, making us look good, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, any quick questions before we go back to item C? Darius?
It is a quick question. I'm looking at page 37, and the in progress truck is in a weird position. I just want to make sure that this is representing, or the icon there, that it's representing Summit Township and not the city of Jackson, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. All right. I do have some additional questions on that, but we can talk offline on that just for the sake of time.
Okay.
Thank you, Darius. Chris, thank you for the great report, and again, for all the hard work for the JCDOT employees.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go back, assuming Charles Adkins is still on here. I see him there. We're going to go back to item C, which
here.
Is this. Okay, so Charles, take it away on the grant application approval. And the observation was that it looks like it's already been submitted, which is probably true because of timelines. But if you can
yes, it was because of our having to meet by Zoom with the Community Corrections Board, which I think you were also part of, David. But this is our annual grant application that is through the state of Michigan, MDOC, that pays for services to help divert nonviolent criminals from jail and the state prison system. It's been successful here for well over 15 years, and we took it over about 3 years ago. And Amy Dickerson is our manager and has been doing a great job. I'll answer any program questions if I can, if anybody has any.
And Charles, I've explained to the commissioners very briefly that it's always a problem with the timelines that they give us in relation to when our meetings are, which will account for the way that it was submitted, and we're looking for approval now.
Right, and I do apologize, but because of the closing and things like that, we were time crunched, and we didn't, the Community Corrections Board passed it last month, so we were just able to get it on for committee approval and onto the board if approved.
Thanks, Charles. Michael, if you can weigh in, it's got it here again as committee action, but does this not require full board action because it's a grant application?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, we're about out of time, but if there's any questions, Charles can answer them, and if not, Tony, go ahead.
As I understand, this came to the board late last year also. So, Mr. Atkinson, if you can assure us that next year it'll come in a more timely fashion, I would appreciate that.
We will do our very best, Tony.
Very good. Any other questions, commissioners? If not, a motion's in order, and again, it's, I believe, to send it to the full board. Rodney and Phil. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you for sticking around, Charles, and Commissioner.
Yes, and thank you, and sorry for the delay. This was our first day of being partially open, and we were all running around like chicken with our heads cut off.
Okay, thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
We need to pay the claims. We can have a motion. Motion by Rodney, second by Tony. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Other minutes are there. The August reporting schedule takes us back to public comment. Michelle, anybody wishing to speak?
Negative.
Thank you. Takes us to committee member comments. Phil, why am I not surprised? You got to unmute, Phil, or we can't hear you.
Yes, I'd like to announce we're going to start the general government meeting at 10 after 10. Everybody a break and take care of things and all.
Well, I just acknowledge, Phil, that we're done before my time is up, right?
Yeah, according to my radio, about 2 minutes.
Okay. Any other committee member comments? Hearing none, we're adjourned. And thank you all.
Good job, David.